Rest now. This is Pillowside Night Stories. Tonight is a sleep story for grown-ups, set in a small wooden cabin at the edge of a winter marsh, while rain falls softly on the roof and the reeds bend in the cold wind outside. A woman at the table by the window has just set down her binoculars. She is turning the cap from a thermos, and steam is rising into the lamplight. Outside, the last geese of the evening are finding their places in the reeds, their calls growing fewer as the light fades. She glances toward the door, then toward the chair nearest the stove, and shifts it slightly, turning it to face the warmth. You have just reached the wooden platform through the rain. The handle is brass, cold and wet under your glove. You press down. The latch clicks. The door swings inward, and warmth meets you at the threshold. The woman looks up from the table. She nods once. "Come in," she says. "You're just in time. The geese are nearly down. Take your coat off. Hang it by the stove. There's tea." She gestures toward the chair she has already turned, the one nearest the stove. You step fully inside, and the door closes firmly behind you. Outside, the wind is still moving through the reeds, hissing and pulling at the edges of things. But the thick wooden walls hold it back. What remains is the rain on the roof, the tick of the stove, and the faint crackle of coals settling. The sound of the rain changes instantly. It is the same rain, but it belongs to the cabin now. It is no longer cold. It is only sound. You hang your coat on the wooden peg beside the stove. It is heavier with rain than you realized. Steam begins to rise from the wool almost immediately. The heat is strong here, close to the iron, and you can feel it on your face and your hands as you step back. It smells of wood smoke, of damp wool drying somewhere near a stove, of tea that has been steeping for a long time, of paper and old leather, and something faintly like the marsh itself, salt and mud, and green things growing in cold water. The woman is perhaps 65, perhaps older. Her gray hair is pinned back simply. She wears a fleece vest over a wool sweater, and reading glasses hang from a cord around her neck. There is a field notebook open in front of her, and a pencil lying in the spine. The binoculars sit beside it, heavy and old, the leather strap coiled neatly. She is already reaching for the thermos. The cabin is small. There is room for the table by the window, and 2 chairs, and a cast iron stove in the corner that is ticking softly as it burns. The stove is old and heavy, the kind that was made to last for generations, and the heat coming from it is steady and close. There is a narrow cot against the far wall, with a wool blanket folded at the foot. There are maps pinned to the wooden walls, and a shelf with books, and more notebooks stacked along it. The ceiling is low. You could touch it if you reached up. The walls are close, and everything in the room is within arm's length of everything else. But most of all, there is the window. It faces the marsh, and through the glass, fogged at the edges from the warmth inside, you can see the gray water and the darker gray of the reeds and the shapes of birds still moving out there in the fading light. The rain falls on the roof. The stove ticks. And somewhere out on the marsh, a goose calls once, a low, throaty sound that carries across the water and then fades. The thermos is old. It has a dented metal body and a cup that screws off the top, and when she turns the cap, you can hear the threads releasing, a small, familiar sound that belongs to long days spent outdoors. The metal is scratched and worn, the paint faded to a color that might once have been green or might once have been gray. There is a dent near the base, where it has been set down on stone or dropped from a fence post, and the rubber seal around the cap has gone soft with age, but still holds. She pours without asking if you want any. The tea is strong and dark, and the steam rises in a thin curl that catches the lamplight. She hands you not the cup from the thermos, but a mug from the shelf, chipped at the rim, larger, heavier. The mug, she says. It holds the heat longer. You take it. The ceramic is warm against your palms. You wrap your fingers around it and feel the cold from the walk begin to leave your hands. The warmth spreads up through your wrists and into your arms, and you realize how cold you had become without noticing. She pours her own tea into the smaller cup and sets the thermos back on the table. The cabin is warmer than you expected. The stove in the corner is small, but the room is smaller, and the heat has nowhere to go. It has gathered in the low ceiling and the wooden walls and the wool blanket on the cot. It has been building here all day while the rain fell and the wind moved through the reeds outside. There is a particular smell to it, the smell of a small space kept warm for many hours. Wood smoke and wool and the faint mustiness of old paper. The smell of damp boots drying and waxed canvas and something faintly animal, like lanolin from a blanket that was once near sheep. By the door, there is a boot tray with water pooled in the corners. An older scarf hangs from one of the pegs, faded red, wool, left behind by someone and never claimed. A tide chart is pinned to the wall beside the window, the paper curling at one edge, where the damp has reached it. On the shelf above the cot, there is a small clock that has stopped. Its hands have been pointing to 3:30 for so long that no one thinks to wind it anymore. Beside it, a jar of pencils, all sharpened with a knife rather than a sharpener. A tin box with a faded label that once held biscuits, now holding spare batteries and a folded map. A pair of wool gloves, folded together, the fingers worn thin from years of reaching for binoculars in the cold. There is a barometer on the wall near the door, the needle pointing to change. Someone has written in pencil on the wooden frame, "Always says change, usually right." Things that have been here for years, used and set down, and used again. "You sit in the chair," she offered, "the one nearest the stove. The seat is wooden, smooth by years of use. The grain has been polished by sitting until it shines faintly in the lamplight. There is a wool blanket folded over the back, and she reaches past you to pull it down and drape it across your lap. She does not explain. She does not ask if you are cold. She simply knows which chair catches the draft from the window and which does not. The blanket is heavy and warm. It smells like the cabin, like wool and wood smoke, and something that has been near open weather for a long time. The weave is thick and slightly uneven, the kind of blanket that was made by hand, or made a long time ago when machines wove differently. You drink the tea. It is not fancy tea. It is the kind of tea you make when you are going to be outside all day and you need something that will stay hot for hours. It is strong enough to taste through cold lips and warm enough to feel all the way down. There is no milk in it, no sugar. Just tea, dark and honest. The mug is warming your hands, and the tea is warming your chest, and the stove is warming the air around you, and slowly, slowly, the cold from the walk is leaving. You can feel it going from your fingers first, then your arms, then the back of your neck, where the rain found its way in. On the table in front of her, the field notebook lies open. You can see neat handwriting in pencil, dates in the margins, numbers, abbreviations you do not recognize. There are columns and tallies and small notes in a shorthand that belongs to someone who has been keeping records for a very long time. The pages are soft with use, the edges worn from being turned again and again. Some of the entries are from today, the pencil marks still fresh. Others are from weeks ago, months ago. The pencil faded to a softer gray. On the shelf behind her, there are more notebooks, a stack of them, all the same size, all with the same leather band wrapped around them. Some are newer, the covers still dark. Others are older, the spines cracked and the leather going pale. 20 years of notebooks, maybe more, all in a row. Beside the notebook on the table, the binoculars lie on their leather strap. They are old, heavy, and dark, with brass fittings that have gone dull with age. The leather strap is worn soft and smells faintly of damp weather, as if it has been handled for so many years that the oil from her hands has become part of it. She catches you looking. Her eyes follow your gaze to the binoculars, and something in her expression shifts. Not quite a smile, but something close. A recognition, as if she has seen many people look at those binoculars the same way, and she knows what they are wondering. My father's, she says. He watched this marsh before I did. 40 years, maybe more. She picks them up, and you hear the weight of them, the soft thud of glass and metal against her palm. The geese don't care whose binoculars you're using, she says. They come in just the same. She sets them down again, and the leather strap makes a small sound against the wood. There is something in the way she handles them, careful, practiced, familiar. They have been in her hands every day for longer than you can guess. They have shown her things that no one else has seen. Birds in flight, birds landing, birds calling to each other across the water at dusk. Outside the window, the light is almost gone. The marsh has turned from gray to something darker, a deep blue gray that will soon be black. The reeds are silhouettes now, bending in the wind that you can hear but no longer feel. And the birds are still coming. You can hear them out there, not many now, but still a few. Calls in the distance, wings somewhere over the water. The sound of things finding their places before night. The stove ticks. The rain continues on the roof, steady and soft. The window has fogged more at the edges, and the world outside is becoming less distinct, less demanding. She turns a page in her notebook. The paper whispers against paper. She makes a small mark with her pencil, just one, and then she sets the pencil down in the spine of the book and looks out at the darkening water. Another hour, she says. Maybe less, then they'll all be down. She does not say what happens then. She does not need to. She stands and moves to the window. There is a particular way she does it, unhurried, practiced, as if she has stood at this same window, at this same hour, for more evenings than she could count. She lifts the binoculars to her eyes. Through the fogged glass, you can see shapes moving in the reeds. Darker shapes against the dark water, shifting, adjusting, finding their positions. They come in waves, she says, still looking through the binoculars. First the scouts, then the others, once they know where they want to be. They've been doing it the same way since, before this cabin was here. She lowers the binoculars and watches without them. Out on the marsh, a small group of geese is circling, 3 or 4 of them, wings wide, looking for a place to come down. You can hear their calls, short and questioning, and then an answering call from the reeds below. They drop. One by one, they fold their wings and lower themselves toward the water, and there is a sound, a soft rushing, a disturbance in the reeds, and then they are down. The calls stop. They have found their place. The water is briefly marked where they landed, a spreading ripple, darker than the surface around it, and then it smooths again, and the marsh absorbs them. She makes a note in the logbook without looking down. Her pencil moves across the page, a small scratching sound, and then it stops. She knows the page as well as she knows the marsh. She does not need to see where her hand is going. More are coming. Another cluster appears from the east. 5 or 6 birds, flying low over the reeds, their wing beats slow and heavy. They are looking for the others. They can hear the calls from below, and they are circling, waiting for the right moment. One of them calls, a single note, questioning. From the reeds, an answer rises. Then another. Then a third, from deeper in the marsh, where the water is darker and the reeds grow closer together. The birds drop lower. They fold and drop and fold again, and one by one they disappear into the reeds, and the calls stop, and the water marks briefly and then smooths. A few minutes pass. The light is nearly gone now. The sky has turned from gray to something darker. Not quite black, but close. The marsh is harder to read. The shapes are less distinct. The birds that are still flying are shadows against shadows. But you can still hear them. From the north, a small group is approaching. You hear them before you see them, their calls carrying across the water, short and rhythmic, like a conversation. They are checking in with the birds already down, making sure this is the right place. She lifts the binoculars again. Last group of the evening, she says, watching through the glass. They've come a long way. You can tell by how they fly. Low and steady, not circling. They know exactly where they're going. She lowers the binoculars and makes one more mark in her notebook. The pencil scratches softly against the page. She does not need to count them. She has been counting them all her life. The number goes into the book, and the book goes into the stack on the shelf, and the stack becomes years, becomes decades, becomes the record of a marsh that would otherwise leave no trace of itself. The birds drop into the reeds at the far edge of the marsh. The calls stop. The water marks and smooths. And then there is only the wind and the rain and the faint sound of reeds bending. The rain has softened. It is still falling, but lighter now, a whisper on the roof instead of a drumming. The wind has dropped too. You can hear the reeds more clearly. Their hissing quieter, their movement slower. When the calls stop, she says, "The night has begun. The marsh keeps its own time." She sets the binoculars on the table. The leather strap makes a soft sound against the wood. And then there is only the rain and the stove and the last faint sounds from the water. More birds are coming, but fewer now. Stragglers, latecomers, the last few finding their way in before the light goes entirely. You can hear them calling to each other across the marsh, and each time, the calls are answered from the reeds, where the others have already settled. One last group circles the far edge of the water. They are darker shapes against a darkening sky, and their calls are softer now, less urgent. They have found what they were looking for. They drop 1, 2, 3, and the reeds receive them, and the calls fade to nothing. You are sitting in a small cabin at the edge of the marsh, watching through the fogged window as the last birds come down, and the water goes still, and the evening arranges itself into night. The woman moves to the stove. She opens the small door at the front and uses a metal tool to shift the coals inside. Sparks rise and fade. The fire brightens for a moment, then steadies. She adds a single piece of wood, small, dry, already beginning to catch, and closes the door again. The iron makes a soft click as it shuts. The new wood crackles once, twice, and then goes quiet as the flames take hold. "That'll hold till morning," she says. She stands and looks around the cabin. At the notebook on the table, at the binoculars beside it, at you, sitting in the chair with the blanket across your lap and the empty mug in your hands. Her eyes move over the room, the way a person's eyes move over a place they know completely, checking that everything is where it should be, that nothing has been forgotten, that the day can properly end. She reaches for her jacket on the peg by the door. It is waxed canvas, dark green, worn soft at the elbows and the cuffs. She puts it on slowly, one arm and then the other, and zips it halfway up. A wool scarf hangs beside it. She wraps it once around her neck, tucking the ends inside the jacket. "I live just up the lane," she says. 10 minutes, even in the rain. She pulls a wool hat from her pocket and puts it on. It is the same faded green as the jacket, and it covers her gray hair and comes down over her ears. The stove will last. The marsh will keep its own watch now. She opens the door. Cold air slips in, a thin blade of it, carrying the smell of rain and reeds and the open water beyond. For a moment, the warmth and the cold meet at the doorway, and you can feel the boundary between inside and outside. She looks back once. "Sleep well," she says. And then she steps out into the dark. and the door closes behind her, and you hear her footsteps on the wet wooden boards of the walkway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then nothing. She is gone. The lamp, the stove, the window, the blanket, the marsh outside, arranging itself into silence. One last bird calls from somewhere out on the water. The call is answered faintly from the reeds. And then there is nothing but the rain on the roof and the tick of the stove and the faint glow of coals through the small glass door. The stove ticks. It is a small sound, metal cooling and warming and cooling again, finding its rhythm now that no one is tending it. You remain in the chair by the window. The blanket is warm across your lap. The mug is empty in your hands, but you have not set it down. It still holds some heat from the tea, and your fingers are wrapped around it loosely. Outside, the marsh has gone dark. You can no longer see the reeds individually. They have become a single dark mass at the edge of the water, moving together in what is left of the wind. The water itself shows only as a faint gray gleam, lighter than the land around it, catching what little light remains in the sky. There are no more bird calls. The geese have found their places. The ducks have tucked themselves into the shallows. Whatever else lives out there in the reeds has stopped moving, stopped calling, stopped making itself known. The marsh has gone quiet in the particular way that marshes go quiet after the birds have come down. Not empty, but full of things that are no longer announcing themselves. On the table, the notebook lies where she left it. Closed now, the leather band wrapped around it to hold the pages flat. The pencil lies beside it, worn short from use. The wood pail where her fingers have held it. The binoculars sit in their leather case, the brass fittings dull in the lamplight, the strap coiled the way she always coils it. She will not need them again until morning. And morning is a long way off. The lamp burns lower. It is an oil lamp, the old kind with a glass chimney and a brass base, and the flame has been burning all day. Now it is smaller, the oil nearly spent, and the circle of light it throws has pulled in closer around the table. You can see the level of oil through the glass base, just a thin layer at the bottom, amber and still. It will last another hour, maybe 2, and then it will flicker and go out, and the only light will be the coals in the stove. The room is changing now that she is gone. The sounds are simpler. The stove, the rain, the occasional creak of wood as the cabin adjusts to the cooling air outside. The wind finds the gaps between the boards, not enough to feel, but enough to hear, a faint whistle that comes and goes. The cabin has its own rhythm without her. The chair where she sat is empty now. The thermos sits where she left it. Her pencil lies in the spine of the closed notebook. The room is holding the shape of her presence, even though she has gone, the way a room does when someone has been working in it for hours. The lamp throws different shadows than it did an hour ago. When the flame was higher, the shadows were sharper, more defined. Now they are softer, spreading out from the table in gradual darkening rather than clear lines. The notebook casts a shadow. The thermos casts a shadow. Your own hands on the blanket cast shadows that merge with the general dimness around you. The corners of the cabin have gone dim. The maps on the walls are harder to read. The books on the shelf have become dark shapes, their spines no longer distinct. The cot in the corner is mostly shadow now, just the pale edge of the wool blanket showing. At the foot, the window has fogged completely. It is no longer a view. It is only a surface, gray and faintly glowing, reflecting the lamplight more than showing what lies beyond. You can see the shape of the lamp reflected in it, and the shape of your own shoulder, and nothing else. The marsh is still there. You can hear it. The rain on the water, the reeds shifting, the wind, low and steady, moving across the open flats. But you cannot see it anymore. From somewhere far off, an owl calls. It is a single note, low, round, carrying across the marsh from a stand of trees you cannot see. The owls begin when the other birds have finished. They are the night shift. They will hunt while the geese sleep, moving through the dark above the reeds. The call does not repeat. The owl has announced itself, and now it is hunting, silent, somewhere out in the dark. The stove ticks again. The coals are lower now. You can see them through the small glass window in the stove door, orange at the center, fading to gray at the edges. They will burn for hours yet, slowly, giving up their heat to the room. The wood of the cabin is holding the warmth now. The planks of the walls, the boards of the floor, the beams of the low ceiling. They have been absorbing heat all day, and now they are giving it back. The room will stay warm even after the stove burns down. You set the empty mug on the table beside the notebook. The ceramic makes a soft sound against the wood. The handle faces the window. It will be there In the morning, the thermos has gone cold. You can tell without touching it. The metal has lost its warmth. The tea inside, if there is any left, will be room temperature now, no longer worth drinking. The blanket is heavy on your lap. Wool, old, smelling faintly of the cabin itself, of wood smoke and damp, and the particular mustiness of things that have been near water for a long time. The fibers are thick and slightly rough against your hands. The lamp flickers once. The oil is nearly gone. The flame drops lower, catches, steadies itself, and continues, smaller now, more orange than yellow. The circle of light has pulled in closer still. It reaches only to the edge of the table now. The notebook is lit. The binocular case is lit. The mug is lit. Beyond that, the cabin is soft and dark and still. The rain continues on the roof. It has been falling for so long now that it has become part of the silence. You are not listening to it anymore. The window is still there, gray and fogged. But it is not a view anymore. It is only a surface, a boundary between where you are and where the marsh continues without you. The notebook lies closed on the table. The binoculars lie in their case. The pencil lies beside them, worn and still. The mug sits where you set it down. The stove burns lower. The coals have dimmed to a deep orange, and the ticking has slowed. The heat is still there, still filling the small room, but it is gentler now. The lamp has narrowed to a single point of light on the table. The flame is small, barely there, barely holding on to the last of the oil. It gives off enough light to see the shapes of things. The notebook, the binoculars, the thermos, the edge of the blanket on your lap. Beyond the circle of light, the cabin has gone soft. The walls are there, but you are not looking at them. The maps are there, but you are not reading them. The shelf is there, but the books have become shadows. Outside, the marsh continues. The rain falls on the water and the reeds and the wooden roof above you. The wind moves through the grass. Somewhere, the owl is hunting. Somewhere, the geese are sleeping with their heads tucked under their wings. But you are not reaching out to any of it anymore. You are not wondering what moved in the reeds, or listening for calls, or watching for wings against the sky. The window has gone gray. The lamp lights only the table now. The stove glows orange through the small glass door. The blanket is heavy, and warm. The chair is solid beneath you, worn smooth by years of sitting. The stove ticks once more, slower. The rain falls softer on the roof. The reeds whisper in the wind. The lamp flickers once more. The flame catches the last drop of oil and holds, and then, quietly, it dims. The coals glow orange at the center, gray at the edges. And before the next small sound from the water reaches the shore, you sleep.